Remember I told you it was going to snow? Well, it's been snowing the last 10 minutes whilst I worked out the details for segment 3. So let's talk about that, segment 3. The party who I was looking at possibly using a clip from, I hadn't yet watched that clip, and it turns out it seems like they weren't using the right stuff after all, so we're going to skip that person. Instead, I'm going to be using 2 other YouTubers, and these were new ones to me. But they clearly know what they're doing, so I'm going to include them in the video. I'm also going to include down in the show notes links to websites, 2 of them, and links to 1 or 2 other videos that I'm not actually going to use, but seem to have it correct as well. So for segment 3, we're going to be using some clips from 4AcreFarm and Home Sweet Home. Now these, like I say, are just new to me. They've been around a while, but they're new to me. I just found them. And on this topic, I can see that they actually know what they're doing. And so we're going to include them in this. So without further ado, let me turn you around here for a minute. The wind picked up for a while and it has dried my windshield, but I hope the white stuff is being picked up by my camera. Nobody likes that white 4-letter word. But I do. Let's get into the video.
We were blessed with about 20 pounds of beef fat that a butcher gave to us. And this is good grass-fed stuff. And so we're gonna render it down into beef tallow, which is a fantastic cooking oil.
The first thing we want to do is cut the fat into small pieces. And then we'll put it in a large pot with some water, just basically enough to cover the bottom. A slow process. You don't want to end up with brown bits of fat. You want it to just heat up and release all the fat into the pot.
All of that fat has been cut up, and now it's time to actually put it on and get it going.
Now we're going to pour some water in it so that the fat doesn't scorch on the bottom. You can see I'm keeping it at sort of a simmer, but look at, I didn't pour that much water into it, so obviously this is the fat rendering out. Pretty neat, huh? You can see how the pieces that have already started to cook have turned sort of a yellowish color, whereas the pieces that were at the top are still raw looking. Okay, at least a good portion of this is ready to be strained out. So we're going to do that. When I said it would take all day, I was serious. But it's okay. I mean, it didn't take much effort. And what we get is free, almost free, except for the time we put into it, cooking oil. So it's later in the day, and it's ready to be poured into jars.
Hey everyone, FourAcreFarm here. And what I'm up to today is I'm going to render some tallow out of this suet. I'm going to get it all chopped up into small pieces. And if you don't know, suet is what comes from the inside of a cow, around the kidneys. It's quite a lot different than muscle fat, which would be on the outside of the animal, hooked to the meat. Now if you go to a butcher to try to get some suet, make sure you tell them that you want kidney fat, because they might try to just pawn off any fat onto you. And to make good tallow, you don't want that, because muscle fat will never harden up the way kidney fat does. It'll be more like lard, kind of soft. So what we got to do here is chop this up into small pieces. I'm going to render this in a crock pot, and then I won't have to tend to it. I'll just leave it in there for a few hours, let it do its thing. It's pans with liners in them, and then we use that for the dog food. We melt it down and pour it over the dog's kibbles. Oh, he loves it, and it's good for him too. Alright, I got quite a lot of this stuff to chop up, so I'll pause the video for now and I'll get back to you. One thing I forgot to mention before is there's a lot of connective tissue in here. You see that right there? Now bigger pieces like that, you really want to try to pull them out. They're just going to get in the way. And there's a lot of connective tissue in there. I don't know if you can see that or not, but you know, some lighter stuff in there. You don't have to worry about that. Just bigger stuff, heavier stuff. You want to try to pull that out. And this stuff's kind of crumbly. You can usually just pull it right off with your fingers. But I'm not going to worry about that. I'll put that in the dog food. I'll be using this finished tallow for making pemmican. So stay tuned, and I'll have probably a couple of videos on doing that. Okay, we've got that in the crock pot. And we're going to let that simmer on low for about 6 hours probably, and I'll stir it every now and then when I walk by. That should do the trick. I'll see you in a little bit. Okay, this is about 5 hours later, and what we've got here is liquid tallow, and it's ready to strain. So I'll set the camera up on the tripod and we'll have at it. Okay, we're ready to strain this off. What I've got here is, it's kind of like a canning jar funnel, only it's got a little screen you screw on the bottom of it. This is something my grandmother had, so I think it's all of 50 years old. So we're going to use that, and we're going to line it with a paper towel just to catch all the fine stuff. And I'm putting it into a pint jar, and when that's full I dump it into these little mini loaf pans. The pint fits in there just about right and makes a pretty good cube of tallow. I've also got some paper towels on the counter to make cleanup a little easier. Okay, we're going to ladle this out first, just the liquid if I can. Quickly flip this funnel into another jar. We're going to pour this into the little miniature loaf pan. And we'll set that jar aside to let it cool, and we'll use this one. I don't know if you can see in that pan or not. But that's about a ½ an inch from full, which is just right. Okay, I'm going to put that in the refrigerator, and I'll be back. Now, of course, you got a lot of those pieces of suet left over from where I cut up. You got this here critter, some kind of a press. I'm not sure just what it is. But I'm going to scoop those into there. Now, hope you can see that. Last time I did this, the pieces of fat just squished right out through the holes, and they probably will this time. We'll see. Just kind of gently squeeze on that. I guess you can't see that very good. My tripod isn't high enough for doing some of these things. Anyways, the tallow's running out of there. Just kind of gently squeeze on it. Okay, we got 3 of those little miniature loaf pans and a couple of cupcakes. And I'm going to let them sit right on the counter and cool off because I've got them kind of full. So when those cool off and harden up, I'll get a picture of them in the morning and post that. Now I got to clean up the kitchen. I'll see you next time I see you.
And these is a homesteader. Not a reenactor, not a historical perspective person. Just a homesteader who's doing what's been done in this nation since its founding with tallow. And understand, tallow is a very useful item and can be used for anything that you would use a commercial fat product for. When I say a commercial fat product, that includes everything from a commercial tallow all the way out to WD-40. In most applications, tallow can be substituted. I mean, WD-40, we woodcrafters, survivalists, preppers, homesteaders, what do we use WD-40 for the most? Protecting metal. Yes, we also use it for lubricating jointed metal, things like barrel pins on a door or the pivot point in a pair of pruning shears, or it's a lubricant, but it's also a metal protectant. And as a metal protectant, it can be substituted with tallow. Matter of fact, a far better job of it is done with tallow for just protecting metal surfaces, because it sticks and stays. It doesn't drip off and evaporate away. By the way, don't forget to